If you're uncomfortable with Marcus coming to the party, you can leave. Those words hung in the air like poison. My wife Teresa said them so casually, like she was asking me to pass the salt. I stood there in our kitchen, tongs in hand, seasoning steaks for our annual summer barbecue, the party we'd hosted together for 3 years running. The party our friends circled on their calendars months in advance. Hi, I'm Raymond. And that moment right there? That was the beginning of the end. Teresa scrolled through her phone, that strange little smile playing at the corners of her mouth. The same smile I'd seen before but always ignored. Always dismissed as nothing. Marcus? I said, trying to keep my voice level. Your ex Marcus? She didn't even look up. He's totally different now, Raymond. We're just friends. I thought it would be nice to include him. The steak sizzled on the grill behind me. My hand tightened around the tongs until my knuckles went white. Babe, I'm not comfortable with that. Finally she glanced up. Not with concern. Not with understanding. With annoyance. Like I was the problem. Like my feelings were an inconvenience she hadn't budgeted time for. Then you can leave, she repeated, slower this time, like I hadn't heard her the first time. It's just one night, Raymond. Don't be so insecure. There it was. That word. Insecure. She'd been using it for years, every time I expressed a boundary, every time something didn't sit right with me. It was her trump card, her conversation ender. But something was different this time. Maybe it was the way she said it, so dismissive, so cold. Maybe it was because she'd finally crossed a line even I couldn't pretend away. I stared at her for 3 long seconds. She went back to scrolling, already confident she'd won. Already certain I'd apologize by morning just like I always did. Understood, I said. My voice was calm. Too calm. Teresa's thumb hesitated on her screen for just a fraction of a second. Some part of her recognized that tone, that deadly quiet. But she shook it off, probably convinced herself she was imagining things. She had no idea what understood actually meant. Please, before I continue, kindly like, share and subscribe for more interesting videos. I couldn't sleep. At 2 in the morning, I lay there staring at the ceiling while Teresa breathed peacefully beside me, one arm thrown across my chest like everything was fine. Like she hadn't just told me to leave my own home. My home. The condo I'd bought 2 years before I even met her, using every penny of the inheritance my grandfather left me. He was a World War II veteran who saved his whole life, who taught me that a man protects what he builds. When Teresa moved in after our wedding, she wanted her name on the deed. She cried about it, called me untrusting. I almost gave in. But my grandfather's last words echoed in my head that day at the lawyer's office. Protect what you build, son. Love is beautiful, but paperwork is forever. I never added her name. She never forgave me for it, not really. Now, lying there at 2 in the morning, I understood why he'd said it. I carefully slid out from under Teresa's arm and grabbed my phone from the nightstand. My thumb hovered over our party group chat. 23 people, all expecting steaks and laughter in 3 days. I typed, "Hey everyone, we need to cancel the barbecue. Personal emergency. Sorry for the short notice." My finger hung over the send button. This would detonate everything. Our friends would panic. Teresa would explode. There would be questions, accusations, drama. But she told me to leave if I was uncomfortable. So I was making her uncomfortable instead. I hit send at 4:47 in the morning. The message showed delivered immediately. Then read, as a few early risers on the West Coast saw it. The dots appeared, someone typing. Then another person. My phone started vibrating with responses, but I turned it face down on the nightstand. I opened my laptop in the dim glow of the bedroom and searched, tenant at will eviction notice, plus our state name. I bookmarked 3 legal sites. Read through the requirements twice. Screenshot the relevant sections. Then I did something I should have done months ago. I logged into our shared toll pass account, the one that tracked every highway trip either of our cars made. Teresa's phone started vibrating at 6:30. Then it didn't stop. I was in the kitchen making eggs, sunny side up, just how she liked them. Old habits. I heard her stumble out of bed, heard the confusion in her voice as she answered. Emily? What? Slow down, a pause. Then her footsteps, fast and hard on the hardwood floor. She burst into the kitchen, phone clutched in her hand, 23 missed calls lighting up the screen. Her face was sheet white. What did you do? I flipped an egg. Didn't look up. Good morning to you too. Raymond. Her voice was shaking now, but not with sadness. With rage. What did you do? I canceled the party. The silence was so thick I could hear her breathing. Then, you what? You said Marcus was coming. You said if I was uncomfortable I could leave. So I made sure neither of us had to leave. Problem solved. Her phone buzzed again. Jake's name. She ignored it. Call them back right now. Tell them it was a mistake. Tell them. It wasn't a mistake. I finally met her eyes. They were wide, disbelieving. Marcus won't be coming to our party. And if you're uncomfortable with that decision, Teresa, you know where the door is. I watched her mouth open and close like a fish drowning in air. For 3 years I'd apologized. For 3 years I'd backed down. She'd gotten so used to winning that she'd forgotten I could fight back. Her hands trembled as she dialed her sister. Sophie showed up within the hour, her minivan screeching into our parking spot like she was storming a castle. I heard them talking in urgent whispers by the door before Sophie burst into the living room where I sat reading the news on my tablet. You canceled their party because you're jealous? Sophie's voice could cut glass. You're a controlling monster, Raymond. I looked up slowly, set down my tablet. I canceled my party at my condo because my wife told me to leave if I didn't like her guest list. I chose a third option. This is emotional abuse. Sophie's face was red now. She turned to Teresa. You need to make him pay for what he's putting you through. Utilities, groceries, therapy bills, everything. I'd known this was coming. Women like Sophie always escalated. Always needed an enemy. I stood up, walked to my desk, and pulled out an envelope I'd prepared at 5 that morning. I thought you might say that, I said, walking back. Sophie's eyes narrowed at the envelope. Legal letterhead showed through the paper. What is that? It's for Teresa. I held it out. My wife's hand shook as she took it. She tore it open. Her eyes scanned the first line, then the second. The color drained from her face all over again. You can't. This is my home too. Actually, it's not. I kept my voice level, calm. The condo is in my name. You've never paid rent or utilities. By law, you're a tenant at will. I'm terminating our verbal agreement. You have 30 days. Sophie snatched the paper. We'll sue you for everything. You're welcome to try. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello. We need to talk about what you're doing to Teresa. Marcus's voice. I almost smiled. Marcus, I said into the phone, watching Teresa's face go even paler. Teresa told you already? She's crying, man. You're kicking her out of her own home over an ex she's friends with? That's insane. I walked to the window, looking out at the parking lot where I'd helped Teresa move her boxes in 3 years ago. Where she kissed me and said this place felt like forever. Let me tell you about this home, Marcus. I bought it 7 years ago with money my grandfather left me. He was a World War II vet who saved every penny working at a factory for 40 years. On his deathbed, he told me, "Protect what you build, son." When Teresa wanted her name on the deed, I remembered those words. That's cold, man. No, Marcus. Cold is telling your husband to leave his own home because you want your ex at his party. Cold is sneaking around for 8 months while he pays your bills. Yeah, I know about that. We'll get to it. I heard him breathing on the other end. She said you were controlling. She would. I hung up. Teresa was standing now, Sophie's arm around her shoulders. 8 months? What's he talking about? Nothing. He's making things up. But Teresa wouldn't meet her sister's eyes. I walked past them to my bedroom. 30 days, Teresa. Use them wisely. Teresa didn't leave. Instead, she dug in like a tick. The next morning, I woke up to the TV blasting at maximum volume at 6 a.m. Some reality show about housewives screaming at each other. Fitting. I got up, made coffee. She sat on the couch in her bathrobe, remote in hand, staring at me with cold eyes. Can you turn that down? I asked politely. If you're uncomfortable, you can leave. She smiled when she said it. Threw my words back at me. Fine. Two could play. I went to work. When I came home, the kitchen was a disaster. Her breakfast dishes in the sink, coffee grounds on the counter, trash overflowing. She'd stopped cleaning entirely. Day 3, she took a 90-minute shower right before my morning video call with my boss. No hot water left. I took the call looking like I just rolled out of bed. Day 5, my laptop died in the middle of a presentation. Just shut off. I looked at the outlet, unplugged. Teresa walked past my office door, headphones in, pretending she hadn't heard me cursing. Then came the legal letter. I found it on the kitchen counter when I got home from work. Official letterhead from some strip mall attorney. Demanding 50% equity in my condo and $10,000 for emotional damages and mental distress caused by hostile living conditions. There was a second page. A claim that my vintage Ansel Adams photograph, the one I'd inherited from my grandfather, worth $4,500, was actually a gift to her. That she had ownership rights to it. I read it twice. Then I made 3 phone calls. The locksmith came first. Changed all the locks on my bedroom door and my office. Teresa screamed about shared spaces and controlling behavior. I handed her keys to everything except those 2 rooms. You have access to the kitchen, living room, bathroom, and guest bedroom, I said. That's more than fair for a tenant paying 0 rent. The lawyer came second. Margaret Chin, 50-something, sharp as a blade. She read Teresa's legal letter and actually laughed. This is adorable. They're claiming common-law marriage equity in a state that doesn't recognize common-law marriage. I'll draft a response. The security cameras came third. I installed them myself. Living room, kitchen, hallway. All in common areas, all completely legal. Teresa noticed them that evening during her usual loud TV session. What are those? Documentation, I said. In case you claim I did something I didn't do. Everything's time-stamped and backed up to the cloud. Her face went red, but she said nothing. What could she say? That night, I was in my room reviewing some code when I checked the camera app on my phone. Just a routine check. But there was Teresa in the hallway, phone pressed to her ear, voice low. I turned up the volume. He's not backing down, she whispered. I don't know what to do. Boss, I can't come over tonight. He'll notice I'm gone. Tomorrow, I promise. Same time. My jaw clenched. I saved the clip. Downloaded it. Backed it up 3 different places. I should have checked earlier. That's what killed me. The evidence was sitting there for months and I just didn't look. Our toll pass account tracked every highway trip. Both our cars linked to one account for the family discount. I scrolled back. January, February, March. There it was. A pattern. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Teresa's car went through the same tolls. Downtown exit. The timestamps were consistent. 11 a.m. outbound, 3 p.m. return. 4 hours twice a week. Yoga with Sophie, she'd said. Sophie lived in the suburbs, opposite direction. I clicked on the address history. The tolls corresponded with an address, 4750 Morrison Avenue, Unit 12B. I pulled up the property records. Rental building. I cross-referenced with social media, something I'd never done because I'd trusted her. Marcus's Instagram public profile. A photo from 6 months ago, new place, new chapter. Tagged location, Morrison Avenue. My hands were shaking. I went back further in the toll records. 8 months. She'd been going there for 8 months, twice a week, while I worked from home thinking she was finding inner peace at yoga. I printed everything. 8 months of toll records highlighted in yellow. Marcus's address circled in red. I put it in a folder and waited for the right moment. It came 2 days later. Teresa and Sophie were watching some cooking show, Sophie having come over to provide emotional support during this difficult time. They were eating my food sitting on my couch in my home. I walked in and dropped the folder on the coffee table between them. Yoga, huh? I said. Teresa's wine glass stopped halfway to her mouth. What? 8 months. Every Tuesday and Thursday. Morrison Avenue, Unit 12B. Marcus's apartment. Want to explain? Sophie grabbed the papers first. I watched her eyes scan the highlighted tolls, watched the moment she understood. She looked at Teresa, betrayal written across her face. You told me you were with me. At my yoga class. It's not what it looks like. Teresa's voice was barely a whisper. Then what is it? I sat down across from them. Explain it to me, Teresa. Make it make sense. We were just talking. He was going through a hard time and needed someone. For 4 hours? Twice a week. For 8 months. I leaned forward. You know what's funny? I asked you 3 months ago why you seemed happier. You said yoga was really helping. I actually believed you were finding yourself. We didn't sleep together. She was crying now, mascara running. I swear, Raymond. We never. You know what? I actually believe you. I stood up. But you gave him something worse. You gave him your time. Your attention. Your emotional energy. Things you stopped giving me 2 years ago. And you did it while I paid your bills, your car insurance, your phone, your everything. Sophie quietly gathered her purse. I should go. No, stay, I said. You should see how this ends. Day 30 is tomorrow. Teresa, you have until midnight to vacate, or I'm calling the sheriff's office at 9 a.m. to enforce the eviction. Teresa stood, her whole body shaking. You won't do it. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone and dialed. Sheriff's non-emergency line? Hi, I need to schedule an eviction enforcement. I watched Teresa's eyes go wide. Yes, tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. Wait. She lunged for my phone. Okay, I'll go. Just hang up. But I didn't hang up. I finished scheduling the appointment. Just in case, I told the dispatcher. If she's gone, I'll call to cancel. Teresa ran to the guest bedroom and started throwing things into suitcases. I could hear her sobbing, hear Sophie trying to calm her down. At 11:47 p.m., she dragged 2 suitcases to the door. I loved you, she said. No, I replied. You loved what I provided. The door slammed. I waited 5 minutes, then called the sheriff's office back and canceled the appointment. I didn't know where Teresa went that night, but I found out later from Sophie during the divorce proceedings. Teresa drove straight to Morrison Avenue, tears streaming down her face so hard she could barely see the road. She pulled up to Marcus's building at 12:30 a.m. Texted him, I'm downstairs. Can I come up? I have nowhere else to go. 3 minutes passed. Then 5. Finally, give me a sec. She waited in her car, watching the lit windows, imagining him tidying up, making space for her. Imagining him being the hero Raymond wouldn't be. When he finally came down, he wasn't alone. A woman stood in the doorway behind him, arms crossed, wearing his t-shirt. Teresa, Marcus said through her car window. This isn't a good time. Who is she? Teresa could barely get the words out. My girlfriend. Look, I can't have you coming here like this. Especially not at midnight. It's not appropriate. Appropriate? You said you needed me. You said. I said I needed a friend. You made it into something else in your head. I've been with Jenna for 4 months. He glanced back at the building. You need to go. The window rolled up. Teresa sat there for an hour in the parking lot, watching the lights in his apartment eventually turn off. Then she called Sophie. Sophie's husband Derek answered, annoyed. It's 1 a.m. Teresa. I need Sophie. Please. She heard arguing in the background. Finally Sophie's voice, come over. But you can't stay long. Derek's already upset. Teresa stayed 3 weeks. On day 22, Derek filed for separation, citing Sophie's inability to set boundaries with her family as one of several irreconcilable differences. The next year was a blur for Teresa. She bounced between friends' couches, each one eventually asking her to leave with increasing levels of discomfort. She couldn't afford anything on her own, she hadn't worked in 18 months. She finally took 2 jobs. Morning shift at a coffee shop, 4 a.m. to noon. Then night shift stocking shelves at a grocery store, 6 p.m. to midnight. She slept in between in her car sometimes, when she was too tired to drive to her next stop. Eventually, she moved into her parents' old house, the one they'd abandoned when they retired to Florida. No heat, peeling wallpaper, mice in the walls. But it was free. One night after a 14-hour shift, she walked past a restaurant window and stopped. A young couple sat inside, laughing over wine. The man reached across the table and took the woman's hand. She looked at him like he was her whole world. Teresa remembered looking at Raymond like that once. Before she took him for granted. Before she prioritized Marcus's attention over her husband's feelings. Before she destroyed everything. She pulled out her phone and typed, Raymond, I'm so sorry. Can we talk? Please. I understand now. I was wrong about everything. The message showed delivered but never read. She tried calling. Straight to voicemail, not even his voice, just the default recording. She tried social media. Facebook, deleted. Instagram, gone. LinkedIn vanished. It was like he'd erased himself from existence. Days turned to weeks. The divorce papers came through her sister. Raymond's lawyer had tracked Sophie down. Teresa signed them at the grocery store's break room table, crying onto the pages. She tried one last time. Drove to the condo. A young family lived there now. We bought it 6 months ago, the wife said. From a Raymond chin? He moved out of state, I think. Teresa sat in her car in that parking lot for hours. I found the coastal town by accident. After Teresa left, I took a week off work and just drove. I ended up in a place I'd visited once with my grandfather when I was 12. A small town where sailboats dotted the harbor and people actually waved at strangers. I interviewed remotely for a senior engineer position at a tech company desperate for someone with my skills. They offered 20% more than my old job, full remote. I accepted on the spot. Sold the condo for $50,000 over asking. Bought a small house with an ocean view. Adopted a rescue dog named Captain. Joined the local sailing club. That's where I met Elena. She was teaching a navigation course, tan and confident, explaining celestial navigation like it was poetry. Afterwards she came up to me. You're new. 3 months, I said. Still learning the ropes. Literally. She laughed. We got coffee. Then dinner. Then she invited me sailing on her own boat, a 32-foot sloop she'd saved up for years to buy. On our first real date, she told me about her ex. He wanted me to choose between my marine biology career and him. Said I spent too much time at the research station. What did you choose? I asked. Myself. Took me too long, but I got there. Then I found someone who celebrates what I do instead of resenting it. We clinked glasses. I looked at this woman, successful, independent, emotionally healthy, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. Raymond, it's Teresa. I know I don't deserve it, but please can we talk? I've changed. I understand everything now. I'm so sorry. Elena noticed my expression shift. Everything okay? I deleted the message without reading the rest, turned off my phone and put it in my pocket. I looked at Elena, really looked at her. This woman who owned her own home, paid her own bills, and chose me because she wanted to, not because she needed to. Everything's perfect, I said. Because it was. My grandfather taught me that the strongest thing a man can do isn't fight back. It's walk away from people who don't value him. For years I thought strength meant endurance, patience, tolerance. The night Teresa told me to leave my own home, something clicked. Strength isn't staying. Strength is knowing when you deserve better. I didn't win against Teresa by destroying her. I won by building a life where she simply didn't exist. And that, more than any revenge, was the truest power I'd ever known.